Hey, good morning to the Up Zone. Good morning and welcome to the Up Zone, where understanding starts with simple. We are your two hosts. I am Tisha S. Waddell, former city council representative for the third district, city of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House representative for the 43rd district in the state of North Carolina. We are excited to be here. It's gloomy outside, but it's sunny in our hearts. Mr. Floyd, how are you today?
So far, so good. So good so far.
Absolutely. We had occasion to see one another well, we spoke yesterday in passing. Um, would you like to share anything about the events of yesterday with our audience, Mr. Floyd?
Well, I just want to thank those that came yesterday to give my daughter a good homegoing services, and those that sent condolence, and those who just, were just humble, and those who really said words yesterday, and the public the same as a whole. I just want to thank those persons for
Yeah,
doing that.
absolutely. A beautiful, beautiful service. I was able to participate or to attend the early portion of the service. And Mr. Floyd, I'll tell you, you know the measure of a man or woman when you see the way people send them home in their finality. And I will say that Latanya was good people. She was good
Oh,
people.
it was. You can tell by the persons from all walks of life
Yes,
that was there. So I just want to, just thank them. You know,
absolutely. And we continue to extend our support and our heartfelt condolences to you and your family. And you know, Floyd, I'm right here. Me and Larry, we here if y'all need us.
but thank you.
Absolutely. Now, we also received word over the last couple of days. Let me say something real quick, and I'm not going to say any names, but yesterday, Mr. Floyd, I encountered somebody, and it made me realize that I was right about a lot of what I thought. Because in this encounter, I had somebody look me in my face and say zero words to me. And this was somebody who, at one point, feigned friendliness to a degree that had me completely stunned at their behavior yesterday.
Well, Tish, you had to realize separation sometimes. Uh, we say, and we close our program, is that a dog that carry a bone, bring a bone, will carry one. And so he seems to be friendly in the initial, but also when he goes back, he has some different thoughts and share different thoughts, and,
Absolutely.
and it helped. And really, in some instance, it helped the person, negative or positive, depends on you know uh, who wants to receive it.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you this, I'm a firm believer that you can see the measure of a man or woman in how they treat you when they believe that they don't need anything from you.
Well, tell, I tell you what. Only thing you got to do is lose an election.
or step down.
Right? That's all you got to do. It
Yeah.
takes no work. It takes no work. You just
But let me tell you something, Mr. Floyd. You see this smile. My daddy calls this $1 million smile. It's a gift
right,
from my family. I flashed this big old pretty smile at that person because I am not mad and I love you anyway. And if you have occasion to see this, let me just say this. Whatever I did to make you not speak to me, I'm sorry. I apologize. Whatever it was, I didn't mean it. I ain't got no ill will against you. I really regard you highly, and I hope that you are well for the rest of your life. And it is well with me. It is well with me. I'm not upset. And eventually they did smile back after a second encounter. But that first encounter was chilly, baby. It sent ice down my spine.
well, that's. I just call people like that. They are unique, but they're
Yeah,
always professional in their greeting. You know,
absolutely.
so
Absolutely. There's an air of dignity even in the dismissal.
yeah.
Mr. Floyd, I do want to congratulate somebody who I have a great regard for, and that is the city manager of the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina. I want to congratulate him on receiving his doctoral degree That is exciting news because anybody who has ever gone on to complete a degree at that level, you recognize the amount of work that goes into that. And so I just want to congratulate him. I think they call it successfully defending your dissertation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to congratulate him on that. You paved the way for other men and women to pursue higher education. I salute you. Mr. Floyd, what do you think is next for somebody in this position? He's been our city manager for quite some time. He now has a degree that affords him so many opportunities. Do you think he'll stay at the city of Fayetteville?
Well, now I can't speak for Doug, but someone out there in Rumorville say that Doug wants to go in higher education.
Okay. So you mean
And
like as a professor or like as, what do you mean?
yeah,
Okay.
as a professor at some public
I can
institution.
totally see that. I can completely see that.
Well, let me backtrack now.
And that
I'm
is
gonna
so
just
much
say,
less stressful.
yeah, I'm gonna say higher education. I don't want to say public or private
Okay.
because the skill set that he has as it relates to getting his doctorate degree and also managing the city staff and the city budget,
Hmm.
is a great indicator that that person has the skill set to do just about what he wants to do.
Oh, for sure.
And one thing that I learned as with the state of North Carolina and its beautiful retirement system, after 5 years, you vested.
Right.
And
And you
so,
know, Mr. Floyd, it's interesting you say that because I remember my mother telling me at the grand opening for Senior Center East that he said, and I've never heard anybody else tell me this, but my mother said that he said in his speech that he was going to be retiring like after in during at this time. So this kind of makes sense to me what you're saying because when she said that I was scratching my head, I was like, who announces their retirement like that? But that makes sense to me.
well, you
I
now
I haven't heard it. He hasn't said it to me. I haven't heard it, but we'll see what happens.
well, you got to look at it. The safest way to leave a job in the public sector,
Is to
is
retire.
you find a date. You find a date that you want to retire, and let them know in advance so that they could give you a break with their harassment.
So they can stop trying to fire you.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm
you know.
leaving. Now, that's what Chief Hawkins did. That's what Chief Hawkins did. She announced her retirement and went on about her business, and it shut everybody up. Now, Mr. Floyd, let me ask you this. We do have a guest today. Do you have any other
Yeah.
announcements you want to make before? Okay. I'm going to let our guest in the room, and then we're going to go ahead and announce him. Today, we are joined by Robert Van Giens. He is a seasoned economic development professional with nearly 2 decades of experience in assisting companies with location strategies and aiding communities in achieving their economic goals. He is the president and CEO of the Fayetteville Cumberland County Economic Development Corporation. Since 2017, he's led the FCEDC, announcing over $500 million in new investments and 5,000 jobs with both international and domestic companies. He also, prior to this, was the executive director of Roadworks Economic Development, and he served in that role, playing a pivotal role in attracting businesses and fostering economic growth. He has his Master of Science in Economic Development earned from the University of Southern Mississippi, and he's a certified economic developer. He's achieved this certification, which reflects his expertise and commitment to the field. He is a board member of the IEDC, the International Economic Development Council. He was elected to serve a 2 year term starting in January 2024, contributing to the leadership of the world's largest economic development membership organization. He has also been recognized by Consultant Connect for his significant contribution to economic development, being recognized as one of the top 50 economic developers in North America in 2017. He does reside in Fayetteville, North Carolina, with his wife Tara and their 2 daughters and their rescue cats. Mr. Van Gien's dedication to fostering economic growth and his extensive experience make him a pivotal figure in North Carolina's economic development landscape. Good morning, Robert Van Giens, aka Robo. How are you?
I am good. It's great to be with you.
Nice to have you. Lovely backdrop. Lovely, lovely backdrop.
That's it. Like me, it's all real. No artificial here.
No, yeah, we see the trees blowing in the wind. We know. Mr. Floyd, would you like to throw our first question out, or do you want me to have the pleasure of doing so?
Ladies first this time.
Awesome. So, Robert, since 2019, North Carolina has experienced significant economic development growth. Would you like to talk about some of the larger projects or some of the most exciting projects that you've been instrumental in helping bring into our community and how they have affected the landscape of Fayetteville and Cumberland County?
Absolutely. Thank you. It's a great question. And it's exciting when you hear a bio read that has changed dramatically since it was written, because we're now up to, over the last 7 years or so, $1.3 billion worth of announced projects and more than 5,000 jobs. I think some of the projects that were transformational have happened. You look at Amazon coming with their 2 facilities. That's a project that ultimately we did with no incentives, and they are employing, I'm not allowed to say the full number, well more than 1,000 people, and continue to invest out there. Again, people when they first came said, well, at the time I think it would have been $17, and now it's $19, $20. Is that a living wage? Or is that the jobs we want for our folks? Like, well, when you have 30, 40, 50,000 people making between 10 and 15, $20 an hour is a good step in the right, a step in the right direction there. The Titanium project, that's a $1 billion announcement for us, and it's working through its process of permitting and design, and that really is transformational for our community in the sense that people have asked, what is our niche? You've got the RTP with the Research Triangle Partnership, the research in that area. You've got Silicon Valley, you've got biotech in Boston. So what does our region do well? And that is, I think, applied innovation around advanced manufacturing, technology, and defense. And these are going to be jobs, 400 jobs paying an average of $125,000 a year that our folks can get. Someone said to me, they said, well, we want to be XYZ and competing for some of these super advanced projects. Like, well, we can't go from zero to Apple headquarters in one step. We've got to work our way up there. And then also, too, we want to complement our region and our state versus compete against some of those folks. But I think we're pushing forward on, Campbell Soup is got its 140 plus folks. NVR down across from the Amazon Last Mile Center on Dunn Road has built their new building and is operating. We just announced Yearden Dome. So I think all of these projects are great and they're diverse and they're adding to our overall economy. I think the thing that I like to see most as I talk about some of these employers is that we are at times now within a percentage point of the state's unemployment rate. And for us, we have always tracked 1 to 2 full percentage points behind the state. There's a lot of factors into that. We could talk about that. But when we're closing, I'd love to see us below that rate. Although that said, when you look at the cuts and that roughly 52% of our workforce here are tied in some way to the federal government or defense, it could potentially be a challenging time for us in the next couple of months. It won't be the private sector as much here as it may be the public sector employment numbers.
Absolutely.
Those are the things I'm most pleased about is that employment growth here.
I know that one of the things that you have to be tracking in economic development is our status as a tier 1 community. What needs to happen from your standpoint in the role that you exist in to move us to shift this community from tier 1 to at minimum tier 2? And how close or far away are we from that goalpost?
Yeah, we have seen our numbers improve, but I think it's important to note on that because of how it's calculated, we are a unique community nationally. When you are home to the world's most populous military installation in the world, it makes tracking and comparing us hard in some ways. The tier 1 status, we can improve on all the things such as per capita income, per capita tax value, our unemployment rate. But some things are unique in the way that one of the things that it looks at is per capita tax value. When you have thousand acres in a federal installation paying no taxes, that pulls down our average there. A lot of the income that comes in through military pay isn't captured in the state system. So these aren't excuses, but these are just to say that even if all things were equal and you take that out, we'd still want to make improvement in those. We are still a community of higher poverty. We are, when we look at some of our numbers. So we need to continue to invest in those, good jobs for our folks, increasing wages. I don't know under the current formula. We're talking to the state. It's very interesting. We did really well in our last in 3 of the 4 rankings last time. Per capita tax base improved, unemployment rate improved, average per capita income improved, but somehow with things moving in and out of the, and I was talking with Chairman Deviere and I had a conversation with the Secretary of Commerce the other day about some of this, is that our population numbers, I even talked to state demographer last week, who's in and out of barracks can show our community going up and down by thousands of people a year. So in 1 year, we gained 6,500 people by the count. Then we lost 4,500 over 2 years. Anybody around here looking at residential development knows that our residential population overall is growing. But so that's what actually knocked us back a few points. It wasn't any of the econometric numbers. It was projected extremely slow population growth, which somehow had us losing people while we're actually growing. So we're in a unique situation. And I wish I could say they can change the model for us, but that probably, won't quite work. But that doesn't mean we don't want to continue moving forward on all those other metrics we can have impact on, and we are improving on those. Is it under this formula to say we're going to get to tier 2? I don't know, but we want to be the best tier 1 community we can be. And then we can look at those other factors in there. We do benefit from enhanced payments from the state, enhanced incentives, elimination of grant matches and other things. So there are some benefits in the sense of it. If the calculation is going to be, our ranking going to be negatively impacted by who we are, tax exempt, military pay, then at least we pick up some benefits for being, number 39 versus number 41 on that list there.
So my last question before I throw it to Mr. Floyd, we've seen coming out of Chemours recently or coming out of the research that's been being done around the PFAS issue with Chemours, that now it's being reported that there are PFAS particles in dust in some homes in Fayetteville. My question in regards to that is, as we continue to grow as a hub for manufacturing, innovation in manufacturing, what is one of the, and that might not have been how you said it, but that's how it clicked in my head.
Sure.
What are some of the challenges in terms of the economic impact? Because we are tracking that a lot of these different types of plants are being centrally located within certain footprints that house lower income demographics. And so when we think about that, what are the economic impacts of us becoming this type of hub, and how are we best mitigating that, especially given the fact that most of the time you don't know what you don't know until you know it?
Yeah, I think a couple of things on that. If you look at us regionally, we are actually, for our southeastern region, we are the center point for the highest of average for manufacturing wages, the highest for the average of medical wages. We're that service center. So we're not going after companies that get by on the strength of our back. I mean, we really are pursuing that next generation of companies that are in that more innovative stage. I think the titanium manufacturing is a great example. Completely understand, based on what's happened with Chemours, which those operations are not in Cumberland County, I'm just saying. But I mean, I kid a little bit about that, that's across the line. But we see what it's meant for the community and lifelong impact. On the titanium side, that process there is less impactful from an air quality permit, as same as the hospital does, as far as its air emissions and the type of permitting. It's as light as they come. Number of commercial and industrial operators have that. We have to be careful. We have to do our due diligence. We have to look at those products. I will say PwC, especially leading the way based on what's happened in our region, is requiring constant monitoring and full assessments of all inputs and outputs. And so I think that we have to be diligent and stay on these types of projects, regardless of whether it's industrial or an aggressive commercial or any sort of operation that's got potential environmental impact. The other side of it is we need to have industrial sites where they can leverage infrastructure but don't conflict with surrounding uses. And that means we have to be aggressive in our land use planning. We don't need 5-acre sites or 2-acre sites. We need 250-acre, 1,000-acre sites. That's how you land transformational projects like you'll see going up 421, the Toyota battery plant, the things that have happened in Randolph County, these mega site type projects. We need to have larger, well-accessed sites that are attracting the type of companies that require that. I think when you have the best sites and the best talent, you get the best operators. And that's what we need to. So by investing in and preparing for the type of company we want and having the policies in place that require them to be good corporate citizens, we can go forward aggressively, but come out with positive returns.
Mr. Floyd?
You mentioned about the titanium plant, and you said as it relates to preventing. How far out is that before they begin the process of development?
Yeah, they will. If all things go well, they are returning to the LGC requested doing their taxes, their industrial bonds over 2 calendar years. So they are planning on coming back in June for that, and they would be closing and starting grading immediately. It's in the design phase now.
I know I was, and just looking at economic development, and I know that you mentioned about site development. Is there a possibility, hypothetically, that Harnett County, Sampson County, and possibly Roberts County, or those counties combined together to help be not a macro site, which consists of about 1,700, but will allow us to have a mini site, which would be probably 800 to 900 acres, to allow us to attract some of these larger industries.
Yeah, we are working on an 800-acre site here in our county now, but that just gives us just one, and that's one and done. To your point, I think there is some potential. The reality is, though, is the question we really need to look at is where are the sewer lines and the sewer capacity, because that is the most expensive and most limiting driver. Roads are relatively inexpensive, water lines can be extended, power lines can be extended, but getting sewer capacity to a site, if we can work with those partners to do it where it aligns on a county line, then absolutely we could. Unfortunately, with residential growth pressures, with other growth pressures, everybody seems to be pretty tapped out and pretty close on that. We have had talks with our neighbors in some surrounding counties, but ultimately it's can we get the infrastructure there in a regional sense?
Well, you mentioned you mentioned our chairperson, but right now they're looking at a multi-billion-dollar project that will help economic development if they're able to do water and sewer. You got to have that for economic development. Not only that, but you must have some energy source to power that industry that may come.
Yeah, and that is going to be the folks have been obviously talking about onshoring and growing U.S. manufacturing, but the availability of base load electric power is going to be the biggest stumbling block right now as we look at the interest in the U.S., the interest in data centers, and where we can actually get to. It's not even the ability to transport it. It's do we have enough ions available on the line? And that's going to take time, but it's something we have to be committed to on a state and national policy level is we need more power generation to meet tomorrow's demands.
Now there was at one point in time, we had the cracking was the thing, as you know, and I think it was DuPont and I think Virginia, they wanted to do a power, I forgot what we call it then, to come from West Virginia through Virginia and down through North Carolina and in somewhere close to Lumberton. It started off as a $5 billion project, but when they got through, it was an $8 billion project, and then they just said no, and that was a cheap source there. But when other words, we want the industry, but we have so many environmental regulations that prohibits industry from actually developing.
Yeah, and that one there, that infrastructure, I guess I am hometown centric. That was the pipeline, natural gas pipeline. We lost over $1.5 billion of deals for this community when that didn't come through. I'm not a fossil fuel fan as far as saying we have to have it, but we have to have energy, period. And for our community, if you look at communities that have the infrastructure, that's where growth is. And that corridor that comes up Interstate 85 through Charlotte, on up to Greensboro. You're seeing that growth all the way down to Atlanta, but that traverse is where some of the natural gas infrastructure transmission lines happen to be.
So, Mr. Van Gans, aside from footprint, what are some other challenges that we're experiencing here in Cumberland County that prevent us from being able to achieve the type of accelerated growth that could potentially be life changing for the citizens of this community? Because as we're seeing our property tax values potentially rise, and we're hearing coming from the chairman of the Cumberland County Board that the best way for us to combat higher taxation is to court more growth from the corporate sector. So what challenges are we facing aside from footprint that we all need to be watching as citizens, and what can we do about that on our end?
Yeah, I think so. It's a twofold. You have to have the physical capacity to accommodate the jobs, whether it's office buildings or manufacturing with its utility needs, and then you have to have the talent to fill those jobs. And we lead our peers in some college, but when you move on to completions, whether they are 2-year or 4-year or technical degrees, we fall off, which ends up with our folks have often student debt and not the economic opportunity that comes with completion. So we need to have increase in the amount of tangible educational outcomes, whether that's credentials, certifications, degrees. We need to get that some college into more completions, or maybe not ever college, but technical competencies that are demonstrated and nationally accepted. And I'll be honest, we have a lot to work to do to raise up and improve our K-12 system and the outcomes there. It is a challenge for those that are in it. It's also a challenge when we're looking to recruit that next level and higher level of workforce. If they live here, we then recruit the companies. If we don't attract them here, our folks will be leaving the best and brightest to take jobs somewhere else. So it's a double-edged sword, and that is probably the one thing that we were able to really move that forward would help us attract more better paying, higher skilled jobs. On the flip side of it, if any community, the site selector, which are the people that help companies find new locations, said to me, I said, what can we do as a community just outside the top 100? What can we do for size? What can we do to really win? Any community that can figure out childcare can roughly have any project they want. If you as a community can find a way for people to have affordable and easy access to childcare, especially second and or third shifts, you can pretty much have any company you want. And so that's a huge gap for us here.
That's good to hear. I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's one of the things that I think is often not discussed enough is access to childcare. Because many people, particularly in our community that have children, if they put their children in childcare, they're working just to pay the childcare. Mr. Floyd, would you like to ask the final question of our guest, Mr. Van Gans, today?
And we have just, well, in fact, we are still in the process of widening I-95. I know we talk about, we need water and sewer, but I-95 for up by exit 65 going to Raleigh. That's prime economic development territory up there, because a person from Raleigh can get to exit 65 in about 30 minutes. For a young person, not teaching out now, we can't do it, but that's prime economic development land up there.
Yeah, I've driven with Miss Waddell. She could get it there. I'm just saying, she's probably motivated. I don't want to tell no tales now, but but you're absolutely right. I mean, what we talked about talent, we talked about buildings, but right there at number 3 is highway accessibility. When companies look at a location, it's can they get their people and can they get their goods to market, or can they, if you are closer to the interstate, every mile you are closer to that interstate, you pick up 1 mile of interstate time, which leads, to a vastly larger labor pool and labor shed and reduce your shipping costs. I think also, though, passenger rail to Raleigh, which I know is a priority for the city and the county, and also I-685. We have to be the ones that win that project coming down this mega site corridor, 421, 87, There's tales of why 95 is so far east from 301. There are tales on why 40 is in Benson and not Fayetteville. If they're true or if they're not, those are two times we didn't get what should have been ours. This time we need to ensure that we do. So I know that's something that all of our leadership is focused on.
Hopefully 685, we can get just a little thumbprint, in that as it moved from Greensboro, this way. But the last question of it is, I want to just say thank you for the economic development project that you have brought to us. But as a citizen that looking at tax evaluation, in which we just got, I just want you to work a little bit harder. So
I understand. I got that assessment too, sir. Yes, I did. Now, honestly, that is, I came to this from land use planning. And we were growing all the houses around Concord and Kannapolis and all the costs of schools and police and parks. And when I ran the numbers, the reality is you cannot lower your tax rate if you don't have more non-residential development. At one point, a little town in New London went around to all the industry and said, you can be annexed by us voluntarily, or eventually you'll be annexed by the major city next to us. And if you come to us, and they did, the community dropped their tax rate by a third by getting these companies to come in, these industrial companies, and then the companies ended up with a much lower tax rate than they would have been if they were in the neighboring community. It is where planes on the ground, a great way to raise revenue without additional school costs. Manufacturing one piece of equipment can easily play the same as 2 dozen, 3 dozen homes. So these are the types of things that we need to think about as we balance out our land use plans. We need to accommodate everything from affordable housing to commercial to access to food, but we also have to look at how do we make revenue without putting that burden on the residential taxpayer.
I just want to say thank you, but I still just want you to work a little bit harder. I'm satisfied.
And
I thank you. I thank you.
Absolutely. And Robert, I'll tell you, we hinge our hopes on the growth of our community. And so your position and the position of those who work with you in your office is extremely critical in our community. We will continue to keep you in our prayers because we recognize that if you all do the right thing for the right reasons in the right way, that we win. So I give you accolades as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do. And, we will come down like a hammer if you don't, because it's our butts on the line. And so because you've never felt the wrath, that must mean you're doing something pretty all right. You get the label, you get the label of survivor, because I remember, you won't remember this. I remember the first time you came before the Fayetteville City Council. I was running for office. I was sitting in the audience and I watched you introduce yourself. And I was sitting here thinking today, you definitely get we're going to slap the label survivor on you because you outwit, you outlast, and you outplay. And that is what you have to do in these types of positions in order to be successful. You've got to outwit our competitors. You've got to outlast any naysayers, and you've got to outplay all of the other people on the board to make sure that you get the things done that need to be done for our community. And so I challenge you to continue to do all three of those things. I thank you for being a member of this community and for taking your job seriously and for working aggressively on our behalf. And is there anything that you want to leave with our audience before you depart today?
Yeah, I would just say that there are certain components of what we do that we can't talk about, but most of it we can. So if people have questions about the types of projects we're seeing, we can't tell you exactly the company's name. We can tell you what people are looking for, where they're looking, what we're seeing. We can share all except for the few things we can't. And so our doors are open, and we are happy to talk to people and put out as much information and education as we can. The other thing to say is that I appreciate all those compliments, but the reality is I can't do anything without the support of the city and the county and the private sector companies and the landowners. I'm a facilitator. And so I just say that when it comes to certain issues, I know it can be rough and tumble out there, but the cities, the counties, and the towns themselves, all the elected leaders, 99.1% of the time have been completely supportive of everything we bring forward when we can back it with facts, logic, and a good community impact and limited risk for the community. They have been there at each turn, providing us what we need. So we're really grateful for that investment because we couldn't do anything without it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today. We hope that you will accept our invitation in the future. If we have asked you to come back, we appreciate you sharing with our audience. And you have a phenomenal day today, Mr. Van Giens.
Great seeing you both. Have a great day.
Okay,
Thank
bye
you.
bye. So, Mr. Floyd, one of the things that I think is so very interesting as we talk about economic development, and I don't like to put any of our people in positions that are appointed or hired by the city, but I want to say this. I think that it's so interesting, even as Robert said in his departure, that he has to work with the city and the county. Listen, usually if you're in these positions, if you're the economic development director, you are smarter than the people you're presenting to. You're more knowledgeable about the information, how it all works together. And your only job is your main job when it comes to presenting to these boards is to finesse them well enough that they think it's their idea and they think it's a good idea because they don't understand the ins and outs of these projects. They don't get it at all, Mr. Floyd.
Well,
Now, I'll tell you, there is a difference though now, and we talked about this on our program either a week or so ago when we talked about the inclusion of these developers at the county level. When you start bringing in people where this is what they do for a living and they speak this language and they understand not only the vernacular, but they understand the landscape, that's when you begin to get challenging questions. That's when you start seeing projects being slowed down and held up a little bit. That's when, because if you don't know anything about manufacturing, if you don't know anything about innovative technology, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what questions to ask. All you know is this is being presented. Here's the numbers. This looks good. Here's what's being said is going to happen to our community. So we have to, from my perspective, Mr. Floyd, when I talk about educating our constituency, what we need to do is make sure that we're selecting people who either have the institutional knowledge or the intellectual capacity to be able to keep up with these types of conversations and these types of projects.
well said, Tish. Well said, but it will never happen.
Because you
Well
don't know what
said.
you don't know. You don't know what you don't
I
know.
mean,
I'll tell you, when I was elected, nobody even asked me what my level of comfort or understanding was when it came to development. That was never one of the questions that was ever asked, or what types of things gave me an advantage when it came to being able to have conversations about the economy of our community. Nobody asked me how my household budget was run. No, these are critical questions that should be asked of our leaders, because if you don't know how to run your household budget, how can you possibly be expected to manage a city or a state budget?
you're okay, Tish, but yeah, I've said to you time and a time and time again on this program. If we like you, we will select you and appoint you. It
Absolutely.
does not make any difference whether you have any knowledge or not. Well, I'll give you an example. We was in a meeting the other day, and similar to what we just talked about.
Mhm.
We're talking about a meeting that had $7.5 million, and the person was asked, said that can no, there was a recommendation made, okay, that the project be given to a body that has the skill set and the mindset to carry the project forward. You should have seen the answers that was given, and the person said, number one, we are in the process of working on our budget, and we are going to start in May. We need to hear from you and your board about this, suggestion and recommendation. And you know what the response was, T? My board are educators, and my board members are traveling, and they may not be able to get or have a Zoom meeting or a physical meeting. And the person kept repeating, we need to have it by April the 31st. They kept saying, we can't do it, but I can have it by May 10th. Now you keep hearing April the 31st. Common sense would set in, know that that's my deadline, and that's not going to change. But we have people that are running these organizations that have to realize, you know, uh, Larry is heating and air.
Right.
I'm a plumber. Okay, so why you gonna call me to do your heating and air? I
Right.
can't do it, but I can come there and collect your money. Okay, and remind you that you will be hot when I leave because I can't fix no air conditioning,
Right.
but I'm gonna get the money for it though.
Right.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Floyd, and most specifically because I love how you are so kind and gentle, and you don't want to really you don't really want to say who we're talking about, but we're specifically speaking about the MLK committee. There's
Well,
been a lot. There's been a lot, Mr. Floyd, where the MLK committee is concerned. I want to just go over a few bullet points. They had to reschedule their banquet. It was originally set for February the 22nd. It was rescheduled and successfully held, it was rescheduled and will be held on June the 7th. Is that correct?
I think it's the fourth. I think it's a Saturday. I think it's
But
June.
sometime in June. So they were intended to have a banquet. It had to be rescheduled. The parade postponement. They were supposed to have their 31st annual MLK parade on January the 18th. Has it taken place yet?
No, they had a parade. I think it was like February the 18th,
February.
somewhere around. Yeah.
Okay. And then again, the MLK Park plans. So, Mr. Floyd, there seems to be some bad management going on with the MLK committee. There seems to be because we've not seen these types of listen, when Mr. Lacey was alive, we'd
Who
have
was
had
that?
problems.
Mr. Lacey? Well, was his wife, as an example, because of the loss of her husband, there's a grieving session. I mean, there's a
Mhm.
grieving period of time,
Absolutely.
and she then sent communication saying that she would like to return. She sent one expressing that, but she would like to return to the board, and the board rejected her request. Board of directors rejected her request. Now we're just talking about certain things, Madam Wadia. There's just our common sense. The person who helped engineer this program, if the wife want to be a part of it, then the most reasonable thing to do, she's just a voting member
But
of.
why would you remove again, we'll talk like I said with the elected officials, why would you remove the people with the institutional knowledge and remove the people with the we've done and we know, and now they're kind of floundering. They're not showing up well, and they're getting ready to lose their funding. All of the hard work that was put into this project is kind of falling by the wayside because of improper management.
What I say to you, that's what I said. The entities want to support the project.
Absolutely.
Okay. The industry, I'm coming to city, county, state, want to support the project.
Absolutely.
It was made very clear, but no one wants you to sit on their money.
Absolutely not. And they want you to demonstrate that you have a capacity, a working knowledge of what to do with the money because they also don't want you to waste it. And when you can't demonstrate, you can't even be bothered to show up for the meetings.
Well, see, the thing that came out of that was that the county said that once you come back with this agreement, there's a possibility that we can move our funding over to the city since it would be managed by Park and Rec.
Right.
We no longer have to worry about the dollars and cents, because all the money is going to flow through the city, for the project. And that including the state too. So you only have one funding source. And it seems to me that you can do a little bit of counting better if you have only one funding source handling the project than multiple funding sources. And
Right.
the city made it very clear that their money is going towards the structure itself. It's not going towards buying land down the street, as an example. Okay,
Hmm.
putting up a flag post, unless the flag post is going to be on the top of the sparrow. Okay,
Right.
that's it. But both agency, all the agency have said we support this project. We just need a start date that the project's gonna begin
And a
and a
plan,
date
yeah.
that the project gonna end.
They just need
But
to
you
have
can't razzle and dazzle professional people. Okay, you can't do it. These individuals deal with these projects all the time,
right,
and they can see whether or not you and your board has the skill set
right.
to manage the project. But it was a very good meeting. But I don't see why somebody keep giving you a date, you know, and you keep giving these whatever you want to call it follow ups. It doesn't make sense because the man tell me that I'm gonna do. The man tell me that I need a suggestion from me by a certain date. I can assure you that I'm gonna have it because I'm not gonna be. My funds will not be in jeopardy, and it's a simple request.
Yeah.
Again, I want to say that so people would know all the agencies support the project. They are just they're just concerned about the timetable,
Yeah.
you know. So,
Well,
but
Mr. Floyd, I don't, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have a great deal of confidence in where this is heading based upon what I'm seeing come out of this committee. I hope that they will prove me wrong, but I don't see a lot of confidence. And it makes me sad because this is one of the key, we always talk about our community. I'm doing air quotes right now. We always talk about our community, the lack of investment, the lack of involvement. And when we show up like this, when the community shows up like this, and it's not, this has been an ongoing conversation for years. We
well,
should be able to at least acknowledge when we don't have the capacity to move something in the direction it needs to go and get our butts out the way and allow somebody else to come in and help get this over the finish line. You cannot make one of the biggest reasons, in addition to me needing to make sure that I had an adequate platform to highlight enact in what I believe to be unethical behavior. One of the secondary reason that I stepped down from my position is because I recognized that because of the biases in regards to how I was being treated and handled by some of my peers on the Fayetteville City Council, my community was being stagnated because the things that were good for them were being blocked because they didn't want me to win. And because I could not let it be about, and this has been proven because everything that I advocated for came to pass after I moved out of the way. So I knew what I was talking about. I knew what was good for us. And I knew how to make sure that it came to pass. I had to get out the way so that what was good for my community could come to pass. Mr. Floyd, sometimes we can't make it about us. We got to
well,
make it about what's good for everybody, for our people.
I always enjoy talking with you, but sometimes it's just I'll say the conversation is just unique. Okay, it's just unique. But
I
the
know.
reason,
I'm a look. Me and you, we are one of a kind.
yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate our community. Uh, it seems like the persons I'm gonna use this as an example. The person that don't have the skill set, but have access to public opinion and media, you know, can convince us that water runs uphill.
Yeah, and that is not wet.
Yeah, I mean,
No, that's
I
dry
mean,
water.
you know, and in this meeting, uh, you know, I I know it was hurtful and painful. The person mentioned that I lost my election because I brought this money back to the community. Okay, saying to the person, I lost my election because I brought this money
And
back.
that person is now Cumberland County Chairman
Yeah.
Kirk Deviere. He was at the time Senator Deviere, and he had to work across the aisle in order to. And that right there will piss you off. I did all this for you to get this, and you can't even be bothered to show up with a plan.
Yeah. Well, see, that is what I'm saying, Chief. that's why I like to hear you talk sometime. But sometimes I say, teach talking is just like pouring water on a duck's back.
Roll right off.
Roll right off, duck. The duck just still walk. The duck is still. You see how they walk? They just wobble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Completely oblivious. Completely
I
oblivious.
mean,
Speaking of completely oblivious, Mr. Floyd,
yes.
how oblivious do you have to be to the how
Uh,
checked out from the room do you have to be to submit a bill and I'm gonna just show y'all the bill. I'm gonna just show you the bill because to talk about the bill without showing the bill,
was it 354 something like that?
I think it's 357. But hold on, we gonna see what the bill is. What's this bill number? 337.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the bill, Senate Bill 337, was originally filed on the 19th, and here's the draft. It was filed by Senator Val Applewhite. She is the primary and only sponsor on this bill. Is that abnormal, Mr. Floyd, for a bill to only have one sponsor?
Yes, that's possible, but then again, you have to look around down the bottom and see if you have any co-sponsor, to give you
Do
some
you
assistance.
see any co-sponsors?
If you roll back up to the top of that bill, I don't recognize any.
Oh, you don't recognize.
You
None are there. There are
know.
none there. So
Okay.
I guess my question is that commonplace to have and when I say commonplace, I mean to write a bill, to have no co-sponsors, to be the only sponsor, and to submit that bill and expect for it to move forward and be ratified into law. Do you think that this is a normal way that that happens, or do you
Well,
usually see some co-sponsors or some?
well, it helps to have, you can run a bill by itself, but it helps to have co-sponsor. It's let the body know that there are members that support your actions.
And this
Okay.
bill, the short title is to reallocate Civil War and Reconstruction History Center funds. Um, and it's an act to reallocate certain funds appropriated to the North Carolina Civil War and Reconstruction History Center for critical community infrastructure, education, and mental health services in Cumberland County. Mr. Floyd, this is performative.
Teach.
This is performative because there's no way that Senator Applewhite in this climate thinks that putting this bill forward, particularly in and of her own right, moves forward into actually being signed into law or the budget actually shifting. There's no way. This is performative. This is so that you can come back to your community and say, I put forward a bill to shift this money, but nobody supported it. The Republicans didn't support it. Well, sugar, it doesn't seem like any of the Democrats signed on either.
Well, Teach, you know, it's just like I shared with you before. If I can carry you to some and then bring you back, it's just like you talking on a conference report. You get good WTVD coverage.
And that's it.
That's it.
But it
That's
makes
it.
you look good because people that don't understand the process, that's why we exist, so that you all can understand the process. Because if you didn't know any better, you would really think this was something when you heard about it. But this is
Yeah.
nothing. Just like when we saw Mario Benavente say that he wanted the city to take over the schools. That was performative
Yeah.
because you know it's not going anywhere. You're just saying something that connects with a demographic and endears you to them, but there's no power behind it. You're performing. You're not working. You're performing. I need you to work, Senator Applewhite. I need you to put forward legislation that's going to really impact our community. I need you to bring some dollars home. I need you to do a Kirk Devier. I need you to do an Elmer Floyd. I need you to bring some dollars into this community because in your first term, you brought this much in.
How much is that? Okay.
I think that's how much is that, Mr. Floyd?
It looked like a round circle.
I can't buy a pack of gum with how much money she brought into our community.
Mhm.
I need you to bring some money in. You have
Teach,
been reelected.
I keep telling I enjoy talking with you, but the people they are just satisfied with just having someone. At what point
Somebody
in
to show
time in
up.
your adult life?
Show up at the events.
Yeah,
Say some things about you being a veteran and about how you know how you care about the community and speak highly about the Democrat Party, and that's enough.
I mean, that's what our community want. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have to talk with you a little more about this because you just, it's good, but our party is so convinced that we just like to hear this teach. It's just like a minister. One thing that they say in all services, I'm about finished. Okay, I'm about finished, and you hear that 3 or 4 times. Okay,
Listen,
same thing. Same thing. So I got to calm you down on in this matter. We are not. We are just satisfied with having a body. And my friend Dudu said, only thing you want to do is to fit in, to sit in.
yeah. Well,
But it's
but remember
don't get me
now,
wrong
wait,
now.
now, remember now,
Yeah.
this might actually play into the narrative that we're hearing of that it's possible that she may want to swap places with Mayor Mitch Coleman, and that
Come on,
Mitch
come on,
will run
come
for
on, Keith.
mayor.
Now I hope that the mayor is not going to even think about stepping down. I mean, this is just a conversation now.
Can
Or
I
stepping down.
want to pause you for just a second, Mr. Floyd, because when you have a handler, let me ask you this question. Have you been hearing what's been coming out of Hollywood about these celebrities who are forward facing, but they're being handled in the background by various people who tell them what to do, how to do it? If we think that that's isolated to Hollywood, we're very confused and misled because Mr. Floyd, we've talked a lot about a player in this community who has his hands on a lot of the political leaders in this community. I remember walking out of Fayetteville State one day. This is after some things had transpired, and I may have told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. I remember walking out of Fayetteville State one day. They had just opened up like a closet for professionals for their students, and I had gone to the dedication of that, and Val Applewhite was there. She wasn't in any elected capacity at that time, and this is when the beginning of the rumblings of some discontent um seemed to be happening on the council, and I guess she had caught wind of it, and she stopped me in the parking lot and shared with me a story, how she wanted to take me by to talk to Jonathan Charleston, and how she had to broker peace between Jonathan Charleston and what's his name that just used him as his lawyer, DJ Hare. I will
Mhm.
never forget this. And as she's telling me this, you know how she had to broker peace between them. So like she's got this gift for being able to reconcile relationships. And I was just standing there, and I didn't really give it a whole lot because I had already blocked Jonathan Charleston in my phone and was already like, I'm not revisiting that. Like once I know you're not no good for me, I'm not circling the block. So I just kind of stood in the parking lot and listened to her. But when I had time to come back and reflect on that, I recognized it said to me, "Oh, you've got a relationship with this player, and you want to facilitate a relationship between me and this player. Why? Why? Because what is Jonathan Charleston doesn't even live in my district. So why do I need a relationship with him?" I learned as time went on because he has his hands on a lot of the members of these boards. He has he seemingly bears influence over these members. I ask you all that to say, when you say, why would he even think about, why would you think he's thinking about it? Why wouldn't you, based upon this the given situation?
It- it- I mean, I know Rumor
I
Mill
know
has.
it's a long way to get there, but you know what I'm saying? Like, what makes you think he's thinking about his plan? What makes you think somebody's not giving him the play?
But I don't think that you're gonna step down, Tish. You're gonna step down, okay, and run for a Senate seat, okay. That you're gonna be number 50, where you are the mayor and you number 1.
Yeah, but what if whoever's thinking for them has a different plan?
Let me repeat now. When you go to Raleigh, you're gonna be number 50 of 50.
Okay.
Okay, you're not gonna have any influence. While you are the mayor, the whole country is at your fingertip.
But what if it's become very clear in this position that you can't get done what your handler desires to be done? That you're so marred and marked at this point, and there's so many
Well,
eyes on you in at this time that you just can't move forward with
I
this.
don't think, I don't think, I mean, there's a limit to thinking. And sometimes, we look at it from our standpoint of view, not the handler standpoint of view. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, it doesn't from our, and I agree with you, but a lot of the things that take place don't make sense from our point of view, but they make perfect sense when you input a handler. And that's just my 2 cents. And I'm, for what it's worth, and it might not be worth anything because he may have taken his hands completely off this board. I don't know because I don't really talk to anybody anymore.
I mean, that's what Rumorville had, and I know that's good. But I have known the mayor ever since he was a little male growing up, and I do think that that's something that well, put it like this right here. I hope that's not one of his thoughts, because you lose all that you gain just to sit on the back row. Okay.
Well, we've heard a lot of rumblings in the background about some looking into, and if there's accuracy there, it may be time for you to shift. I don't know. I'm gonna just leave that right there. But anyway, Mr. Floyd, what you want to leave our people with today?
Same thing I always said. If you bring a bone, he'll carry it.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah, and love is patient, love is kind. It's not puffed up. It doesn't want its own way. It's not. It's all those things. If you want to know what love is, go and look at First Corinthians 13. That's what love is. Let's stop pretending that we love ourselves and love each other, and have all this love if we're not those things. Listen, I can call you out on your crap and still have a great deal of love and respect for you. Maybe not so much respect, but a great deal of love, because love doesn't have anything to do with me liking you or me wanting to have dinner with you. It's really just the capacity to be able to understand that even in your mess, you're still a part of God's creation, and that alone deserves that alone affords you the opportunity to be loved. So, let's love each other. I really, and I can't say this enough, Mr. Floyd. I love how people showed up for you in your time of bereavement. And I pray that they will continue to surround you and your family. And I hope that people understand that even when we do this podcast, it is not an attempt, and I say this all the time, it's not an attempt to disparage an individual, it's an attempt to expose a system. And if
Well,
those individuals are participating in the system, we're just talking about their participation in the system. You won't hear me discussing people's marital, and it's a lot. Like I be having thoughts. You won't hear me discuss them, my ideology behind their marriage, unless it involves the system. You won't hear me talking about their children. In fact, quite the contrary. If you hear me say something about a person as a parent, it's usually very complimentary, because I can see how you can separate two things, how you can be a horrible, horrible, horrible elected official and be a great mom or dad. Like I can separate those two things. And I think that when we approach things from that perspective, that is when we gain credibility in this space. And so I hope that you all recognize our ability and capacity to continue to do that. And Mr. Floyd, I love what you said, and I'm going to echo the sentiment. A dog that'll bring a bone will carry a bone. So if you going to come to me and talk about somebody, please know that I'm looking at you knowing that you about to turn around and go talk about me. And just because I smile and I don't say anything to you about it doesn't mean it's not top of mind. It means I don't trust you. I'm watching you because you messy. So y'all get it together. And anyway, that's just that. Like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend and tell a friend. And listen, we love y'all. And we'll catch you on the next episode. All right, sir. All